Hello, my name is Dennis Daly and I'm an interviewer for the Public Library of Cincinnati and Hamilton County. And today is January 20th, 2010. And I have the honor of interviewing Mr. Wilfred Meinzen. You said you go by Will?
Will.
Okay. He's a veteran of World War II. Mr. Meinzen, thank you very much for agreeing to do the interview here today.
It's really nice to be here.
We were talking a little bit off camera with you and your lovely wife about some of your background. I'd like to get started with where were you born and where did you grow up before you got into the service?
I was born in Silverton, Ohio. Lived there until I was married when I came out of the service. Same house. We didn't move much. Matter of fact, just a short story. When we were first married, we moved into 3 houses in 5 years' time, and my mother says, "You're just a gypsy." So anyway, now we've been in that house for 56 years. So I guess I'm not a gypsy.
I guess not now. Tell me a little bit about your family when you were growing up. How many siblings?
I had one sister who was 7 or 8 years older than me. We got along great. My father got into the hardware business with his brother-in-law, with my uncle, and that they stayed in business until I came over to service. And my uncle had a child that had muscular dystrophy, and he wanted to get on a farm with his son, so I bought him out, and then it became a partnership with my father and I, and unfortunately he died about 3 years later. So I had the store, and luckily right now I have a son that's with me. At my age, I need all the help I can get.
Carrying on the family business.
And he's carrying on the business.
That's great. You had mentioned when we were talking that you went to Withrow?
I went to Withrow High School.
When you were in high school, did you have any special interests, hobbies that you were involved with?
Well, I played in the band. Withrow Minstrels was a very popular thing in those days. My wife was a soloist, and I played in the band. And I guess that's why we got together. And it's been a happy marriage.
Started a date in high school.
I dated her when she was 14. My first date was her 15th birthday. So,
maybe it'll last.
We're both well in our 80s now, so
that's great.
It caught.
So you were in high school. You mentioned you were the class of '43. And one of the questions we always like to ask people, this would have made you, I guess, a sophomore on December 7th, 1940?
No, I was a senior.
You were a senior?
I was a senior.
What do you remember that day, where you were, how you heard the news?
When the war broke out, you mean? Well, it was a Sunday, naturally, which we all know. Betty and I were on a church picnic at the time, or not a picnic, it was a get-together at one of the churches in Hamilton. And we didn't know anything about this until we got home, and her parents told us right away what had happened. There was a Japanese attacked us at Pearl Harbor, and it didn't change our life at that time, but it certainly did later.
I was going to ask, from at that point, did you start to look forward then to joining the military? Was that something you thought was an inevitability? Or
well, at that time we were probably only juniors, sophomores or juniors, and we knew it was going to happen, and that's why I chose enlisting rather than being drafted, because I was, as every 18-year-old or 17-year-old was then, wanted to get involved in the service. Everybody wanted to help. So I chose that time to, as I told you earlier, I skipped high school, an exam period in January of '43, and went down and enlisted in Fort Thomas and enlisted in the Air Force.
Okay.
They gave me a leave until I graduated from school. We graduated graduated in first week in June. And the next day after graduation, I was on my way to Keesler Field.
Oh, so the next day was when we had to
Next
report.
day I had a report.
And then did you leave out of Fort Thomas to go?
We left out of Fort Thomas. Well, no, we didn't leave from Fort Thomas. I had a report to Camp Atterbury, Indianapolis.
Okay,
So my parents drove me over.
okay.
Went to Camp Atterbury, and then that night we got on a troop train and went to Keesler Field.
And that's where you did your
That's
basic?
where I did basic training.
Now you were in the Army Air Corps, which was part of the Army
At that time it was the Army Air Corps, yeah.
So was basic training similar to what, say, an infantryman in the Army would receive?
Probably not as tough, I would venture to say.
Okay.
We thought it was very bad, but my guess is the Marines and the Army had it a lot harder because we didn't have did a lot of hiking, a lot of walking, a lot of physical training, but we didn't have quite the training that they had.
Okay. And that was, I don't know, what would that be, about 10 weeks for basic?
I think it was 7 or 8
Okay.
weeks, and we went from there to trying to think, Nashville, where we got classified.
Okay.
Everybody wanted to be a pilot in those days, but they unfortunately had too many pilots, so they would rather you be a navigator or bombardier, and they said I was better suited for navigation because math had always been my long suit. So I went to navigation school.
Did you have to take any tests to determine this?
Yeah.
Or, okay, so you took tests and then they came
We
to
took tests, I qualified for all 3.
Okay.
And that's the reason I could have waited and gone to pilot school, pilot training, but naturally everyone wanted to, or at least I did, I wanted to get active right
Sure.
away, so the quickest way was navigation school. We had to go to gunnery school first, so I went to gunnery school in Fort Myers, Florida. Went from there to Oswego, New York for a college training, which was basically, we flew Piper Cubs and just learned basic everything. Navigation, bombardiering, everything, and piloting. So from there we went I was sent, I think I'm the only person in the Air Force that never went to Texas.
So I was going to ask you
Yeah.
about the Texas.
I went from there to Miami Beach and went to school at the University of Miami.
Now, was that navigation school?
That's navigation.
Okay.
We were trained by TWA private school.
Okay.
The Air Force had contracted with TWA. We flew Old Pusher. I'm trying to think what the aircraft was, but anyway, we flew all over water. Commodore, it's called the Commodore. I think its airspeed would hit 85 or 86 miles an hour. That's about as fast as it would go. But by the same token, we flew a lot at night, so we learned a lot of celestial navigation, which was a plus. I got my wings that fall of 43, and then we picked up our crew in Ardmore, Oklahoma, went together with, met with the rest of my crew, picked up a plane in Lincoln, Nebraska, and flew to Manchester, New Hampshire, and then across into Europe, into England.
Just to back up a little bit, I'm kind of fascinated about navigation school. You mentioned celestial navigation, navigating by the stars.
That's right.
What other kinds of navigation did you learn? Were there instruments that you
Well,
used?
yeah, the common one, compass, and is your number one thing for any other. Your common navigation is dead reckoning, which is where you look at the ground and go there. Then you have
which probably didn't help much if you were over water, right? Or
not at all over water.
Right.
It all looks the same. There you almost have to use celestial.
Okay.
Because even if you only get sun lines, you can use radio too. Radio is very helpful, but it was in its infancy, and you'd have to triangulate on 3 radio stations to get a fix.
Okay.
Same way you do with stars, you triangulate on 3 stars to get a fix to see where you are.
So that's interesting.
But, it's a very interesting thing. Today I'm replaced by a box that's about that big for $100, and all the school I went through.
If the box goes out, I'm sure they still teach people celestial anatomy, I would think.
Yeah, well, with the satellites they have up there, it's just unbelievably modern.
So then you talked about you got just assigned a crew. Did you go to a depot where there were?
We went to Ardmore, Oklahoma, where we were assigned our crew members.
Okay, so when you got there, everybody got assigned a crew.
We met our pilot, co-pilot, bombardier, and 5 crewmen. There was 10 of us, or 9 of us, 5 crewmen and 4 officers.
And
they were all the gunners.
And you all got along pretty well?
Oh, fantastic.
Okay, that's good.
Fantastic.
So then you flew to...
We went to Europe. We flew out of Manchester, New Hampshire.
New Hampshire.
Landed in Greenland.
Okay.
Greenland, we had a very bad storm, and we were delayed about a month while they had to redo all the engines because the storm was so bad. Then we flew into England, went to Wales, went to Reykjavik for a stop, just overnight, and into Wales. Then we were assigned to our base, which was in Royston, England, or Nuthampstead, England. It was about 20 miles north of London.
Okay.
Actually, it was a crossroad. They built an airstrip there, and that was our base. We had a grocery store and a pub. That was all that was in the town. All you need, yeah.
I'm not real familiar with, you would have been in an Air Force and then a bombing wing?
First of all, you had a group.
Okay.
First, second, third group. Then you had I was in the 398th Bomb Group, which was part of 3rd Division, 603rd Squadron. You'll see tail designations. All B-24s had a circle with a letter in it. The 3rd had a triangle, and the 1st had a square with a big. Ours was a triangle W, which people in Cincinnati will see a lot because the plane that comes into Lunken, which is the aluminum overcast, is one that our group had paid for the modernization or the restructuring of it. So it comes into Cincinnati quite a bit.
That's 17, right?
That's a 17.
And you flew, and you were in a 17.
That's what I flew in, yeah.
And that's the one that goes for the Welcome Home Veterans Day over at Lunken, gives people rides and stuff like that. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that's got your incentive.
They have it comes into Lunken, I think twice a year. There's another one comes into in Lunken. It's, I think there's only 15 of them still flying now. So it's becoming a lost breed. It's so expensive to operate.
Sure. So there you are in England. You get to your base. Then you immediately start flying missions, or did you have some time?
No, we had to train first.
Okay.
Unfortunately for me, or I guess fortunately, radar was just coming in. So after I think it was 10 or 12, 13 missions, something like that, I got picked out of the pool of navigators they had and sent to radar school. Okay. It happened kind of regularly. Every squadron had to send some in. So we went to Blackpool, England for radar training. Again, everything went my way because I got back to my base and it was pretty darn close to the Victory in Europe Day, VE Day. Okay. So they took everybody that had radar experience, put us on a plane and shipped us home. And we were going to go to the South Pacific. Right. So it was goodbye to my crew, which I hated to do. By the way, I still talk to them once in a while. Okay, that's great. A couple of them are gone, 3 or 4 of them are gone now. But there were 9 of us, and talk every once in a while. I lost my train of thought.
You were back in the States and you're getting ready.
Well, back in the States, and I got a 30-day leave, got on a train, went to California, where I was going to fly out of California to go to the South Pacific, and VJ Day came along.
Okay.
So I didn't have to go.
So were you in the States when VE Day took place, or were you still over in Europe?
I was in Europe, yeah.
You were actually there when that
I was
happened?
in Europe, yeah.
Were you in England? When
I was in my base, yeah.
What was that? What was that like? Was it elation, or was there this feeling?
Firearms and firecrackers and whatever made noise, pots and pans, whatever. Just a lot of noise. The English people were happier than we were, I think. They were very, very glad it was over. But it was a happy time.
And
At that time, I said I left. Before I left, we flew into Germany and picked up, I think 4 or 5 times I had to go over and pick up prisoners of war and bring them back, which was kind of
That's
nice.
interesting. Were these like high-ranking prisoners of war? Or?
No, anybody. My pilot.
Oh, these were Allied prisoners of war you were picking up.
What's that?
These were Allied prisoners of war you were picking up?
Yeah, we were picking up prisoners of war that came out of prison camps.
Okay.
And brought them home.
Oh, that must have been.
And it was kind of an interesting time.
Yeah.
Because none of them were, I would say, in bad shape.
Right.
Because I think they would come home not by flight. They would have been home, taken to a hospital or something first. Because the ones we brought home were very well. Very happy to get out. But we brought them back to England. So,
Did you get to talk to many of those guys?
yeah, yeah. They were great card players.
They had a lot of time with the cards, I
They
guess.
had a lot of time on their hand, and most of them were Air Force people.
Okay.
And they were glad to come back to
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
get their feet on the ground.
That must have been, that's a very unique mission. I've never heard of it. And
Yeah.
probably the best
Yeah.
duty you could have, picking up these guys.
And then I had to leave that, and after a little while, I only did that for, like I say, about a week, and they sent me home.
What was your feeling when you were home and you had your 30-day leave? Were you nervous about the invasion of Japan that was impending? Were you more nervous about that than you had been about Germany? Or?
I don't think it bothered me
Okay.
at that time. I was still young.
Sure.
I think today, if I had to do it, I'd think twice about going there some way. But at that time, I was still young enough and ambitious enough that we had to get to it for our country.
Sure, absolutely. I know that a lot of the ground troops were very. I mean, that was going to be a really bad situation for them. But I don't know about how much of a difference it would have been for the Air Force guys. And that's
Read the book about. Okay, come on, Will. Anyway, Senior Bush,
Oh, okay, right.
Bush Senior,
Mm-hmm.
he was picked up and held as a prisoner of war. He was very fortunate. He wasn't held very long, but the book, I'm trying to think of the name of the book. I have a copy of it at home. It's the story of the Japanese were savages, really. I mean, at that time.
Well, yeah, they didn't treat prisoners of war.
They didn't treat prisoners of war very well. And, I think I should have found the name of that book. But anyway, it's a very good book telling about George Bush Sr.
Okay.
and his troubles.
I want to kind of get back to something that I find interesting. They broke your crew up? I would have thought that they would have brought you.
They didn't break our crew up. I was the only one. They just assigned another navigator for me.
But the rest of those guys were just going to get out?
They finished, I think 30 missions, 30, I know it was 30 or 35 at that time. And then they flew back, and made me feel good, because when I talked to a couple of them, they said they liked me better as a navigator than the one they had. So anyway, we're still friends.
That's great. And then, of course, Truman made the decision to drop the atomic bombs, which kind of is controversial now, although I think that's getting to be less so. But what were your
At
thoughts?
then it was controversial, but I had seen too many, what do they call them, the palm bombs, dropped on both England and pictures from Japan, and that was a lot worse than the atomic bomb. To have, imagine a jelly splash on your body, you can't get it off and it's on fire.
Sure.
That to me is a lot more cruel, but it did get the war over faster. We saved so many lives.
On both sides.
Right.
So that, now I kind of want to go back just a little bit. I like to talk to the men that were in B-17s. Take me through what an average mission, from the time you woke up until the mission was gone, kind of how that went.
Well, we usually get up around 3:30, 4 o'clock, and have to go to the ready room. They tell us where we're going, give us a breakfast, and tell us what the mission was. We'd go out to our plane. We'd usually be out there about 4. And being in England, it was foggy every morning. We had to usually sit around until the fog lifted. Nobody knows how many planes were lost and take off over there. Just a lot of them. They'd either have accidents, hit each other, or they fly into some of the radio frequency towers.
Right.
We lost a lot of aircraft that way. But we would then meet out over the channel, and whoever came up with the dream of putting a group of sometimes 2,000 planes. Can you imagine being in the ground and watching this armada come over? It had to be scary, because I know we'd be up there, and as far as we could see was aircraft. But you normally get a lot of flack when you get over the channel, or out of the channel into Europe. Fighters, by the time I got there, the fighters were short on fuel. So instead of being, they would shoot a cannon at you and try to fly away from you.
Okay.
They didn't have enough gas to fight with our fighters. So we had to worry more about one shot, but the flak was the worst.
Right.
That,
They were pretty good with that flag.
very good. Once they had your height, one of our missions, for instance, we had whoever was the lead crew made a mistake, because we had an undercover and he didn't want to drop the bombs. So a lot of clouds underneath us, and he wanted a visual bomb. So he comes back, and instead of coming a different direction, a different altitude, he comes the same. And that, they hit us right on the mark where we were. They had our height, and we lost a lot of aircraft on that mission.
Did the flak intensify the closer you got to a target in general?
Oh yeah, it was the worst.
And for your...
And it looked pretty. You just see a little puff of smoke, and you couldn't think anything about it. But if it got close to you, you'd rock and roll a little bit.
Now, as your job as a navigator, how you basically got the plane over the target?
My job was to get it over and get it to come into this group.
Okay.
Where we get together. Then it was the lead navigator's job. Mine was only to basically make sure that if we got separated anyway, I knew where we were and where to go.
Okay.
But I didn't have to. He had the job of taking the group in.
Did you also double as a gunner?
I had a gun, but I never had to use it. We never used it. We had, I did get, as I say, I went to radar school, I've only flew about 3 missions as a radar operator, but that too was just like a navigator, except we followed on radar. And I got pictures I took. I got also as photographer, so I took some pictures.
Right, you were showing me some of those.
Yeah.
So then you would get close to the target, the bombardier would take over.
Bombardier, on the bomber and the bombardier take over.
And now where was your position in the plane?
He and I were in the nose.
So you were with the bombardier?
Bombardier and I were in the nose.
Okay.
They're up about 3 steps to the deck, which is where the pilot and co-pilot were. And then right behind them stood the engineer. And then through the bomb bay doors in the back, the radio operator was first. And then there was 2 gunners at each side, a tail gunner and a belly turret gunner.
So you were right there with him while you were making that final bomb run.
Oh yeah.
He was using the northern bomb sight to get.
Yeah, he was there, and he and I were.
Did he communicate with the crew how close you
all
were
of us
getting?
did.
Okay.
We were all on telephone.
And then you let the bombs go. Something I've kind of never really asked anybody before, but did that make your plane
Yeah.
get really light?
When you drop, you drop 6 500-pound bombs, that's 3,000 pounds of weight comes off, so you actually jump.
Okay. Which is probably good.
But
Because
everybody, again, so they wouldn't get too bad, everybody would toggle off of the lead bombardier usually. So he'd had a smoke signal, smoke bomb, and that would go, they'd toggle off of that.
Okay.
Everybody would go off of that. So you'd cover a good area.
did you usually get a chance to see if your bombs hit, or were you?
Oh yeah.
Okay, you could tell where they hit. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then coming back, you had to go through the gauntlet.
Through the
all over
gauntlet,
again,
through the
right?
gauntlet again, yeah.
All the flak was still trying to hit you.
Yeah.
Were you ever in a plane that got hit by any flak?
We were hit, but we never had any serious damage, never lost any engines.
And,
We did lose an engine, but not from flak.
Okay.
But a B-17 is a remarkable aircraft. It'll fly on 3 engines.
How did you lose the engine? Just stalled on you, or?
I have no idea.
Okay.
That's too long ago.
Okay.
Yeah, that was enemy. It stopped.
Right. Okay.
A lot of times they'll freeze up from lack of
Well, it
oil.
wasn't, yeah, like you said, it wasn't like
Yeah.
there wasn't a fire.
But, no, it wasn't any physical damage. It was, but they had great engines, but matter of fact, they're not a prettier sound than when those 4 are synchronized and everyone. Because my hearing is bad today because of the noise.
Right. Well, hey, they were loud.
Yeah.
So then you're past the flak line. You've got to feel real good now that you're back in this position. How long in general did you usually have to unwind between missions? Did they usually give you a couple of weeks, or was
Depending on how busy you were. We had already run 2 missions in one day after D-Day.
Oh, wow.
We'd run into France, which is just a hop, step, and a jump over the channel, and get back, and we had time to, if we had time and they needed us, we'd load up and go over again.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's pretty
That didn't happen too often, but
One of the things that another person told me, and I don't know if this is universal, they said that they used to boo the weatherman every time that he got up there. Was that something that you guys did?
it was bad. It was bad. Wasn't his fault.
Right.
But we had bad weather all the time.
So now you said you flew, what, about 13 missions before you went to radar school, and then 3 after that?
Then I was on set on home.
What was the number by the end of the war, if you had stuck through? What was the number of
I
missions?
think it was 25 or 30,
Okay.
something like that.
Okay. It had to be just incredible stress and strain while you were on the mission, and then fairly
I
relaxed.
honestly think we looked at it that way, though. The biggest strain was on the poor pilot, because when you're flying close formation, you're 25, 30 feet wingtip to wingtip. And if one guy moves a little too close, it's curtains.
Did you ever see anything like that happen there? Okay, that's good. Did you ever see planes get shot down while you were
Oh
on
yeah,
formation?
yeah, seen that. But that's again, we had a lot of them, especially when went into Germany, deep into Germany, and had an accident. They would fly to Russia or to Italy, and then come back by ferry.
Okay. So
If they had accident with their plane, if their plane got hit at all, they could have the prerogative. If they can't make it home, they could go to Russia.
Yugoslavia or
I didn't have any problem.
So then you're on your way to get back to where we were before. You said you were on your way to California when VJ Day.
I was on a train.
And then, so you had to, I'm assuming you had to report to the base.
I reported to the base. We were there about a month, I guess. I don't remember, but about a month. And they sent me back to Boca Raton, Florida for discharge because I had enough points.
And so you had to go to where you first came in to get discharged?
Well, to be discharged, yes. I was discharged out of Atterbury.
Okay.
So but I reported back to
Boca Raton.
Boca Raton to find something to do. And that was foolish because all we did was get up in the morning and try to find something to do all day long. A lot of baseball games went on then.
Oh, sure. That would have been.
And, yeah.
I'm just trying to think, from California to Boca Raton, what did that take about a week on the train or something like that?
No. Actually, I went home to Cincinnati. We went to Chicago.
Okay.
And I think it was around 2 days. And then I came from Chicago to Cincinnati, picked up my car, and I drove to Florida.
Oh, okay.
So I took my car to Florida with me.
Down the old Dixie Highway?
It's a hard way.
Yeah.
The hard, no expressway.
Right, exactly. Wow, that
No
must have been
expressway.
fascinating.
So anyway, when we were finally discharged, I took, there was four or five of us, got in my car. They were all from around here. We went to Camp Atterbury and got our discharge and came home. But the fellows that came with me were from, two of them from Cincinnati and one from Louisville. And I guess one from Indianapolis, yeah.
Okay. Where is Camp Atterbury, actually?
Indianapolis.
Indianapolis, okay.
Outside of Indianapolis.
So you then drove yourself home from?
Came up, we drove up here and took our discharge papers and went home.
And then what happened from there? Was your lovely wife waiting?
Back to
for you?
work.
Back to work.
My wife was waiting for me.
And you got married?
And we were married about 4 months later, I'd say 4 months later. June, anyway.
Okay.
I got home in April. I had something like 3 months leave accumulated. I didn't have to go to work, but I did. And we got married at the end of June.
And you went to work in your father's?
In the store, yeah.
Father's. Mm-hmm. That's fantastic.
That's at the time we bought my uncle out then.
Okay. And that's what you've done since?
Still there.
Lovely family, three children.
3 children.
Did you take advantage of the GI Bill at all after the war?
No.
Or? Okay, just straight back.
No, I don't know. A lot of fellows did, and it was very good. I think it was a great thing to have. Sometimes I miss it. I didn't go to college. Sometimes I'm glad I didn't.
Sure.
But,
So, anything else that you can remember story-wise from your time in the service that we didn't cover here today, or?
You met the Queen.
What's that?
You met Queen Elizabeth.
You met the Queen of England?
Oh, she visited our base.
Oh, okay.
I didn't personally meet her.
But you got to see her.
But the king and queen came to our base, and both girls, and he was sensational. The king was some special, and we found out later the Queen Mother, that was a queen at that time, was a very good friend of my wife's cousin, a couple times removed.
Okay.
And she came to visit us, and she was just an outstanding person. She came from Scotland, and that's where the Queen Mother had her castle.
Okay.
So they were very good friends, and that was kind of interesting.
That's,
They didn't visit too many bases, but
Sure.
we were only 20 miles away from the base, about 10 miles away from their castle, so they came to our base.
that's something that
It
most
was
people
kinda neat.
never get to see.
That's right. Mhm.
That brings up a question. You said you had a grocery store and a pub on the base there. What was your reaction to the English people? Did you find them to be
They were
friendly?
We
and
had no
welcoming?
problem with them whatsoever. They were great. We had no problem with them whatsoever. They were nice people. Another little quick story, we were not far from Cambridge University, and we did a lot of our training up at Cambridge, and among the worst was dunking. We were trained, you know, if you had a ditch into the channel, how to get out of your aircraft. So we had to train for that. So they had a machine that you slid down a raft into a swimming pool, and had to get out of your seat, unbuckle yourself from your seat, and out of your clothes, get out and get to the surface. And if you didn't make it, I think in 45 seconds or 50 seconds, something like that, they had this thing so they'd pull you out.
Okay.
It was not one of my favorite things to do. And
Did you ever have any problems getting up and pulling
No,
up? Like
no.
Okay.
I want to get out in a hurry.
Now, if somebody did have problems, were they grounded? Or
No, they
just had to keep trying again?
they'd have to come back and do it again.
Why would you have to get out of your clothes? Is that just because they were
No,
trying?
because it was heavy.
Okay.
By the time you take a flight suit and a jacket, it's because it was cold up there.
Yeah,
So
and
we had
that's.
a lot of clothes on.
Didn't you actually have electric wires running through
We
the
had
suit to
electric-
get you?
And as a navigator, I had electric gloves. So I could take my mittens off, and I had nylon glove. And they would warn you not to have it off over 60 seconds. You put your electric back on. And for that reason, I do have frozen fingertips.
Oh, okay.
If it freezes, I can feel it at the end of my fingers real bad.
What was that? Was that hooked up to something, like a generator
Yeah.
or something?
Same as your oxygen through.
Okay.
Had little plug-ins where you.
But if you crashed into the channel, would you get electrocuted?
No, it's not that strong.
Oh, okay.
Not that strong.
I was gonna say, but that's fascinating. What does it get to be about 60 below or something like that?
We would hit 60 below at altitude, but
Yeah.
not low. But if you get up to 25,000, 25,000, you can hit. I had hit 60 below.
And there was the cabins weren't pressurized.
No
or-
pressurized, no heat,
Right.
no nothing.
What was that like with the pressure? Just would you have to? Would they,
Well, we had 10,000 feet. You had to put your mask on.
Okay.
That was number one rule. One of the worst things I had was when we flew into England. We had as I said, they were overcast most of the time. When we flew in, we were by ourselves. Well, let's say by ourselves, no formation flying, but we had about 10 planes coming in at the same time, and it was overcast. And my pilot said, I'm going to take the first hole I see and go down, so be careful, we're going to move fast. Hold your nose and blow. And we did that. We dove through the clouds to lower altitude.
Wow.
So we could see where we knew we were about where we wanted to be,
Right.
but we needed to get visual.
Did you ever run into any bad storms that you had to fly through?
We hit that one in Greenland going over. That was really a bad one. They had tied ropes from the mess hall to the latrine to the
Oh, wow.
where our sleeping quarters. So we had to go by rope. But
Wow.
you couldn't see anything for the sand in the air.
Oh my goodness. Did you have to fly? When you came into Greenland, were you flying through that storm?
No, we landed.
Before.
It happened that night, and that was another neat experience coming in there, where we learned to love our pilot because it was beginning to get overcast, and we came in right on top of the water, and I know my bombardier poked me, he said, "Look out back, you can see the water churning from the props. Almost looked like it. But anyway, we went back this little fjord, and at the end of there was the runway just had about a 25-degree slope, so it was a short runway.
Oh, wow.
So it's good to land on and good to take off on because you're downhill. But I guess we didn't have more than maybe 100 feet on each side of the plane to come in on. It was a beautiful country. It is gorgeous. We were stuck there that month, or not, about 2 to 3 weeks, and they issued us whatever we wanted. We had skis and snowshoes, and we could walk around up on the glaciers and everything. It was beautiful area.
Now, I know the Americans, I guess early on, lost a number of planes in crashing. Did you?
There's one in Blue Ash right now that's being refurbished.
That's one of the ones they got from.
It's going to be. They got it off the ice cap.
Okay.
And they refurbished it, and they're waiting to determine who's going to own the airport, Blue Ash or Cincinnati.
Okay.
And then they're going to make a SATIC.
Did you see any of those wrecks as you were flying in or out of Greenland?
No, you don't see them.
Okay.
It's a desolate country. You don't really see anything.
Yeah, it's not named very properly.
No, apparently it was at one time.
And then you said you flew to Reykjavik for one.
Reykjavik, we landed one night.
Did you get a chance to see anything?
No, they
there?
warned us, don't go into town, you're not well liked.
Oh, really?
They were very German oriented.
Yeah, that's right.
Germany put a lot of money into their infrastructure there.
That's
they
right.
had beautiful heating system. They use hot water for everything because they've got so many, what do you call them?
The springs, the
Yeah.
natural.
Natural.
I had a friend that went over there. They still heat everything
Yeah.
up with that hot water. Well, that's.
That was beautiful, but they warned us, don't go into town, don't try to mingle. So, we were over there one night anyway, so.
And so you flew overseas and back, so you never had to spend any time on a troop ship or a
No.
victory ship or anything
Not
like
at
that.
all.
Okay, that's a little bit different. Most, even the airport guys, most of them.
A lot of them went over, yeah.
Yeah.
We got to ferry our plane over. We didn't keep that plane. We had to leave that plane and take another plane that was there. So somebody got a new plane.
Okay, from Greenland.
No, from Wales.
Okay.
We landed in Wales. We carried over. I forget what all we had. We had sextants. We had gas masks. Anyway, the plane was loaded with material for the war effort.
Okay.
And then we just left the plane there, and they took us down to England.
About how fast did a P-17 fly?
Okay, it's around 150, 140, 150
Okay.
knots. Interesting to say that because our squadron commander was a young man. He was a major, he was only 21, it might have not been 21. But because my pilot was an instructor over here, he picked him as his co-pilot, and I got picked as a navigator to go with him. So the three of us had a B-17, which was stripped down, had nothing on it. They took all the turrets off of it, anything that would be structurally slow it down,
Mhm.
they took off. And this young man was unbelievable. It would take off at about a little over 100 miles an hour. It would take off. Normally it would speed up to 125 to take off, 125 knots. But this young guy would, there was only the three of us in a plane, and he'd get that thing up to airspeed, and he'd lift the wheels. He wouldn't, the plane would shudder a little, then he'd go up. It struck me as being fun at the time. I guess it was a little dangerous, but it was fun.
Yeah.
But that's why I took a lot of pictures. I used that plane to take a lot of pictures.
Okay.
And we also used it to go out and pick up food, pick up liquor for the officers club or the non-com club, whatever. But it was kind of interesting time.
Well, anything else you can think of? I know this has been just a fascinating interview.
We had, boy, what are some other things I told you about? No, like I told you earlier, I was one of the few people in the Air Force. I spent more time in school than I did, and I never went to Texas.
Which is very
unbelievable
surprising.
because everybody went to Texas in the
there's
Air Force.
big fields down there.
Yeah, but
Florida and Texas are really the two big places.
what's that?
Florida and Texas are the two
Florida,
big
yeah.
places.
Or Randolph Field in Texas is one of the big ones, but that's what a big navigation school is. A lot goes through there. But we went to the University of Miami with civilian instructors, and so that little civilian aircraft, which only held 4 people, and I think it didn't make 100 miles an hour though. It was neat. It was an old 2-engine push aircraft.
Do you like to fly still?
I am nothing against flying, but I have no reason to fly.
Okay.
Other than the fact that, I should say this there too. I made that honor flight last September.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I can't speak highly enough for those people that do that. We left Dayton and went into Baltimore. And when you land in Baltimore, the people there, they applaud you. They get emotional.
Yeah.
It's just something to go through. That people at this day and age are this nice to us. And there was about, I guess about 40 of us. We went to the World War II Memorial, and
What did you think of that memorial?
that's something to see. It's absolutely
I haven't
gorgeous.
seen it.
Absolutely gorgeous. And then we went to Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, and that too is so impressive. And then we came home. We got away late, so we didn't get. We were supposed to be home by 10 o'clock. We got home about 2 in the morning because we got a late start out. There was a wreck. One of the pilots couldn't get there, so he was on 74 and 71. He couldn't get into Dayton, so we had to wait for him. So we got a late start getting out, but we got back. It could have been a nicer trip.
Oh, yeah, I've heard nothing
It
but
was
good
just
things.
absolutely fantastic, and the people that do it right.
Which they should.
If any veterans are out here and want a chance to go see it, they'll take anybody that, you might have to wait a little bit now. I had to wait about 4 months before I could finally get on. But it's a wonderful trip.
Well, sir, we thank you for doing the interview, and thank you so much for your service to the
Thank you.
country.
It was my pleasure.
Pleasure meeting you, and
Same with you. It's been great.
thanks a
And
lot.
like I say, I can't think of a thing that I had that I really regretted. It was a great time in my life. And a lot of the people that I was with are still friends.
That's great.
Unfortunately, we're getting to be a lost breed. And that's why something like this is so nice.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much.
Okay, well, thank you.